Hey everyone, just wanted to make a quick video talking about a couple tidbits of Infernal Lore that we learned from Maloc's voice lines. Firstly, let's talk about Maloc's mentioning of the name Gorgana.
Gorgana named me champion of the host. It's a pretty big deal.
We don't know who they are, but I think it's safe to assume that Gorgana is very high up the Infernal hierarchy, since they had the authority to name Maloc champion of the host. Maloc also seems very proud of this, suggesting that Gorgana is someone who Maloc deeply respects, and is presumably in a position of authority over him. We can't say for certain, especially since Infernals have strange names like Warz, but I'm going to hazard a guess that Gorgana is a female Infernal, because it does sound like a feminine name in typical fantasy naming conventions. These storyboards feature what appears to be a hooded female Infernal, framed in such a way that it conveys the impression she's in a position of power in the Infernal hierarchy, and I think there's something like a 50-50 chance that she's Gorgana. You might be thinking, it is a bit of a stretch to link the only feminine-sounding Infernal name we have to the only feminine-looking Infernal character art we have. But I don't think it's too big of a stretch, since looking at these artworks, as well as Infernal unit design in general, and I get the impression that, at least initially, there aren't going to be many female Infernal characters. Secondly, we learned of the existence of something called the Domina. Maloc refers to this in a selection line where he says, "for the Domina," and in one of his annoyed/funny lines where he says that he swells with pride whenever the Domina pays him a compliment.
For the Domina! That's why I swell with pride whenever the Domina pays me a compliment.
I didn't look into this super in depth, but a cursory Google indicates that Domina is the feminine form of the title Dominus, which is Latin for master. So Domina refers to a female lord, a lady. Now, we don't know if this is the meaning for the word Domina that Frost Giant is using for the Infernals. After all, the Protoss and StarCraft use the title Executor in a very different way from how we use it. That said, if the Domina is the title of a female leader within the Infernal host, I think there's a good chance that it's Gorgana's official title. Quick aside on my speculation of the Infernal hierarchy. It's not very conclusive, but just going by this artwork, if I had to take a guess, I'd put this crown-wearing looking guy at the top, people like this lady and others as the leaders in a circle, and then army leaders like Maloc and Warz below them. I'll get into why I think Maloc and Warz are on the same tier in my next point, and that's this. We learned that Maloc and Warz seem to have something of a rivalry.
Warz thinks I stink? He smells like a bag of dirty assholes.
So, this is why I think Maloc and Warz are on equal footing in the Infernal hierarchy, or close to it. I say this because Maloc has a lot of lines where he shows a lot of deference to the Domina and Gorgana. So Maloc doesn't give me the impression that he'd smack-talk someone who's a military superior. But it's also possible that he's just especially deferential to Gorgana. The last thing we learned is that Maloc underwent something called the Incubation Process, and that he responded very well to it.
They say no one's ever responded to the Incubation Process better than me. They say I'm nearly perfect.
The devs have mentioned that the Infernals are Zerg-like in the sense that they assimilate conquered species into their army, which is why their units look like such a mishmash. So it's possible that incubation is the process by which the Infernals convert other races into more Infernals, similar to Zerg infestation. Alternatively, incubation could be a process in which specific Infernals are augmented to become far more powerful. I think that this theory is much more likely, just from the context of Maloc's line. It just seems to make more sense. Based on the voice lines we have, I get the impression of Maloc being a capable and strong commander, but one who grossly overestimates his value to the Domina, whoever they are. I think he's the kind of character who'll get a rude awakening when he finds out he's actually very replaceable. and that might lead to him questioning his beliefs and loyalties. Finally, I just want to end with a caveat. A lot of these are annoyed/funny lines, and they should be taken with a grain of salt. Some people might want to dismiss them outright because of that. However, these are the kind of annoyed lines that seem to be referring to canonical things, just like StarCraft and Warcraft did. Those games also had a lot of annoyed lines, where the exact words being said may not be canon, but still reflect how a character may genuinely feel, and reference other things that are canon, like this annoyed line from Vorazun.
I do not wish to speak ill of the Templar, but let us be honest. Most of you could not complete the Shadow Walk.
And that's the same impression I get from Maloc's lines, and why I feel that the information we can learn from them is worth talking about. Before I go, I'll just add that I have another video which collects what I believe are all of Maloc's voice lines, so you can refer to that as well. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.